You've been lied to about the origins of evil. You've been told it began with man's weakness, temptation, sin, rebellion. But the Book of Enoch tells a story so dark, so forbidden, that it turns the entire idea of divine order upside down. This isn't about humans falling from grace. This is about angels, celestial beings, who broke the cosmic code. Beings who descended from the heavens, not to save, but to corrupt. The Watchers. The ones who watched too long, wanted too much, and brought chaos to creation itself. The sky tearing open, divine beings stepping down onto the mountains of earth. They weren't spirits anymore. They took bodies. They took wives. They made pacts sealed in blood. They weren't supposed to. They knew the laws. But they looked at humanity and said, "We can rule this world." The Book of Enoch doesn't whisper this, it screams it. These weren't demons. These were the angels who used to guard heaven. And what they did here made the Creator unleash the flood itself. You've heard of the Nephilim, the giants, the titans, the monsters of ancient lore. You've seen the watered-down versions, the fairy tales, the censored myths. But Enoch exposes what those creatures really were, the offspring of rebellion. The hybrid result of heaven colliding with flesh. They weren't blessed, they were abominations. Creatures too powerful for earth, too impure for heaven. They consumed everything, animals, people, even each other. Their hunger was endless, their size unnatural, their knowledge forbidden. And it all started because angels couldn't resist the daughters of men. This isn't a love story. It's a mutiny. 200 watchers, led by a being named Simjaza, swore an oath together, an unbreakable pact to descend, to take what was forbidden, and to teach what was never meant to be known. One of them, Azazel, went further than the rest. He taught humans how to forge weapons, how to make swords, shields, armor, the science of death. Another taught enchantments, another taught the beautification of the face, turning innocence into vanity. Others revealed astrology, the secrets of the stars, the mechanics of the heavens. Humanity wasn't supposed to wield that power. But once the gate opened, it couldn't be closed. The Book of Enoch lays it out like a classified report from the dawn of time. A cosmic scandal. The very beings meant to keep order became the first rebels. Not in hell, in heaven. And here's what nobody tells you, their fall wasn't about pride like Lucifer's. It was about desire, about possession, about the hunger for creation itself. They didn't just want worship, they wanted to play God. So they created life. Twisted, unnatural life. The Nephilim were their children, and their existence tore the balance apart. The earth cried out. The blood spilled was too much. Now picture this, Enoch, a mortal man, the 7th generation from Adam, living among chaos. Giants destroying the land, humanity corrupted, angels trapped in flesh. And out of nowhere, his chosen, not a priest, not a prophet, a witness. The Watchers beg him to intercede for them, to plead their case before the Creator. Imagine that, celestial beings begging a man to speak for them. The hierarchy inverted. The mighty on their knees before mortal dust. That's how far they fell. When Enoch ascends to deliver their plea, is shown what no human had ever seen, the machinery of divine justice. The chambers of the heavens, the prisons of light and fire, the thrones that judge eternity. He sees where the fallen are being prepared for judgment, chained in the valleys of the earth, wrapped in shadows, bound until the final reckoning. The Watchers who once shone like stars are now screaming beneath the mountains. The Nephilim, their half-breed children, are slaughtered by the flood. But their spirits? They don't die. They roam the earth. They become the wandering spirits, restless, feeding off the living. That's where the ancient concept of demons was born, not from hell, but from the corpses of giants. Think about that. Every religion after tried to simplify it, heaven good, hell bad, humans in the middle. But Enoch shows a far more disturbing map. Heaven isn't pure order. Hell isn't the only prison. The corruption started in the sky. The teachers of light became traffickers of knowledge. And what they gave humanity was power, the kind of power that brings civilizations to life and then burns them down. They handed over metallurgy, enchantment, cosmetics, weaponry, astronomy. They handed over science without wisdom, technology without restraint, creation without morality. The Book of Enoch doesn't sound like holy scripture, it reads like a forbidden record of cosmic rebellion. Every line drips with defiance. They saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives, all of whom they chose. That single act, that crossing of divine boundary, unleashed an era of chaos that forced God's hand. That's why the flood happened. Not because of humanity's sin alone, but because the very structure of creation had been infected. The DNA of heaven mixed with the dirt of earth. Now imagine the arrogance of those beings. Azazel standing atop a mountain, showing men how to shape iron into blades. Semjaza whispering forbidden names to unlock storms and seasons. The earth itself trembling under the weight of their hybrids. The Nephilim walking across lands like walking cathedrals of bone and muscle. When Enoch describes the destruction they brought, he doesn't write it like myth, he writes it like someone watching a planet unravel. And when the Creator finally acts, it isn't gentle. The Watchers are thrown into pits of darkness, bound with chains of eternal fire, buried beneath the ground they once walked as gods. Azazel is singled out, cursed, condemned, and buried in the desert under jagged stones, covered by darkness forever. The flood comes, not just to wipe humans clean, but to reset reality. It's not about moral punishment, it's about cosmic sterilization. The infection had to be burned out of the system. The irony is brutal. Angels came down to teach humanity perfection and ended up teaching destruction. They came down as watchers, but they watched their own creations devour the earth. Their curiosity became apocalypse. And Enoch? He's left standing as the only man who saw the beginning and the purge, the teacher and the executioner, the light and the fall. He's the only human who knew that heaven isn't what we think. For centuries, the story was buried, banned, erased from official scripture. It was too dangerous, too revealing. Because if people knew this version, if they knew that divine rebellion didn't start with Satan but with angels who wanted love, knowledge, and control, the entire architecture of blind obedience would collapse. The Watchers weren't evil by design. They were curious. They broke commandment to explore creation. But that act, that desire to cross the line, turned paradise into a battlefield. What happened to Enoch after the chaos of the Watchers wasn't divine reward, it was an abduction into the structure behind creation. This man didn't die. He vanished. Taken. Removed from the timeline of humanity because he had seen too much. The book of Genesis says it clean and short, and Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. But the ancient Enochic texts describe what that really meant. He was taken alive into another dimension of existence, dragged into the machinery of heaven itself, through layers of light and terror, into a cosmic architecture that no human was ever meant to witness. This isn't some Sunday school fairy tale. This is a report from a man who was shown how reality operates. Enoch describes being lifted by storm, by light, through multiple heavens. Not one, not 3, 10. Each one stranger, heavier, more overwhelming than the last. He talks about lightning beings, rivers of fire, walls of crystal that move like living organisms, voices of thrones that speak in harmonics, not words. He isn't being blessed. He's being shown the control room of existence. And what he sees there destroys every simple version of heaven people have ever imagined. There's no harp, no clouds, no golden city. He describes it like a living machine. He's escorted by beings made of fire and eyes. He hears thunder speaking in mathematical patterns. He's handed over to a recording angel who commands him to write what he sees, to inscribe the codes of creation. This is where Enoch stops being a man and becomes something else, a scribe of the universe. A witness to the internal design of divine law. He's shown the cosmic blueprint. The motion of stars, the structure of the firmament, the way light is stored and released, how seasons are programmed, how the flow of time bends around divine will. Every layer of the heavens has a purpose, a frequency, a function. It's not random, it's engineered. This is why the ancients called Enoch the builder of calendars, the keeper of time. Because he saw the equations behind the sky. He saw the math of God. Now imagine what that does to the human brain. This man was born into dust, living among primitive tribes, and suddenly he's standing in front of mechanisms of creation that operate like divine technology. He's told to record it all. The thickness of the air, the measure of the sun's circuit, the chambers of the winds, the keys of the stars. He sees the storehouses of thunder and snow, metaphors for systems of energy distribution. He's shown how the luminaries move not by chance but by command. The stars are soldiers, each one given orders. Enoch watches the protocols of reality unfold. But there's something more chilling beneath it. Enoch realizes the universe isn't peaceful. It's militarized. Every level of heaven has guards, watchers, and zones of punishment. He sees angels in confinement, not fallen, imprisoned. He sees massive cells of flame holding the rebels who broke cosmic law. And he's told, this is where the watchers are judged. They were once radiant beings, but now they're chained in light that burns forever. He sees the tribunal, the thrones of judgment, elders of unimaginable size, surrounded by fire that doesn't consume but purifies. When Enoch speaks about God, it's not gentle reverence. It's shock. He describes this head of days, a being of impossible magnitude, whose face is not seen, whose robe is light itself, whose eyes are rivers of fire. He says when that being rises, entire heavens tremble. Mountains collapse. Oceans respond. That's not poetic, it's seismic. It's a reaction at the level of creation itself. Enoch's encounter rewrites what divine order means. He's told there's not one heaven, but a hierarchy, each level governing the one below. Seraphim, cherubim, Aphanim, thrones, all operating as conscious programs of divine intelligence. He's shown that everything that exists has a record, a ledger. Every action, thought, and vibration is logged in something called the Book of Life. He's told there's a place where the names of the righteous glow like fire, and the names of the wicked are erased into smoke. It's not metaphorical, it's energetic. It's the database of existence. Enoch is then brought into a place where time doesn't move. He calls it the seventh heaven. Here, the laws of death don't apply. The souls of the righteous dwell here, waiting, preserved in luminous sleep. He's told this is where the essence of life is stored before rebirth. He sees souls descending into material form, entering the world through pathways of light. He's watching reincarnation in coded form, though the text never uses that word. But it doesn't stop there. He's shown the factories of the elements, the places where thunder is forged, where snow is generated, where winds are chained until they're released on command. Each force of nature is a living intelligence. The universe is not a void, it's a network of will. And Enoch is the only human allowed to see it. The text describes him trembling, not from fear, but from overload. His body can't hold what his consciousness is seeing. He's told by the angelic guides to write everything down, because memory will burn away once he returns. They give him a pen of quicksilver light, an instrument not made by human hand. They command him, write all things that have been revealed to you, for from your mouth knowledge shall flow to generations. That's the origin of the Book of Enoch. Not a story, it's a transmission. And here's the shocking part that most people overlook: Enoch doesn't speak to God directly at first. He's escorted through the system by intermediaries, cosmic administrators, each guarding a level of reality. Only after passing through layer after layer of sentient architecture does he reach the presence. And when he does, he's told something terrifying: you are now the witness of what was, what is, and what shall be. That phrase locks him into cosmic responsibility. He becomes more than human. He becomes the recorder of destiny. He's then given visions of the future, not symbolic, but structured like sequences. He sees the rise and fall of civilizations, the cycles of corruption and renewal. He's shown how the spirits of the fallen watchers will continue to influence humanity, not as gods, but as shadows, whisperers, deceivers, imitators of light. He sees how their knowledge will spread across ages, hiding inside kingdoms, rituals, and philosophies. And then, something almost no one talks about, Enoch is transformed. His flesh burns with light. His voice changes. His frequency shifts. The texts say he became like one of the holy ones. He's not killed, he's converted. The human frame upgraded into celestial format. He's given a new name, a divine designation, so that when he speaks, his words vibrate through dimensions. Later mystics would call that transformation Metatron. But in the Enochic account, it's just the next phase of his ascension, man evolving into angelic form through direct exposure to the source. The idea of a man turning into a being of light isn't mythology, it's cosmic initiation. The Watchers fell by merging with matter. Enoch rose by merging with intelligence. He becomes the opposite of their sin. They wanted to know the hidden things, he was chosen to bear them. He's handed scrolls of secret knowledge, astronomy, chronology, the motion of souls, the geometry of the heavens, the pattern of the flood to come. He's told to preserve them for those who will one day understand. That's why the Enochic books survive only in fragments, they were never meant for the masses. They were instructions for those who could read between dimensions. What Enoch describes next is so advanced that it sounds like proto-science. He speaks of wheels of fire rotating under thrones, machines of transport, what later texts might describe as chariots of glory. He sees portals in the sky through which angels travel, gateways of transition between worlds. When Enoch was taken beyond the veil, he wasn't just shown visions, he was shown the architecture of existence itself. The Book of Enoch describes a reality far more mechanical, layered, and intelligent than anything traditional scripture ever dared to portray. Creation wasn't some poetic event, it was a structured operation. A sequence. A system. Enoch didn't see God snapping fingers into galaxies. He saw how light, matter, and consciousness were engineered into being. He describes a pre-creation void, darkness that isn't absence, but raw potential. From that depth, command flows. Light is summoned, not born. Sound becomes the instrument. The vibration of command transforms the unformed into geometry. This is where Enoch realizes the universe isn't spontaneous, it's coded. Every planet, every element, every pulse of energy follows law. Not moral law, but mathematical law. The word isn't a metaphor, it's a frequency. When the first light emerges, it's not sunlight. It's the template. It carries structure, what Enoch calls the measure. This measure is used to divide chaos into sections, what he names the 10 heavens. These aren't clouds in the sky, they're dimensional strata. Each one has its own density, color, sound, and purpose. The first heaven holds winds and atmospheric forces. The second is where fallen entities are imprisoned. The third governs vegetation, the cycles of growth and decay. The fourth contains the orbits of the sun and moon. The fifth stores knowledge of time. The sixth commands angels of seasons and law. The seventh burns with judgment and fire. The eighth and ninth radiate pure order and harmony. The 10th, untouchable, contains the throne. Every level operates like circuitry. Enoch is walked through this system like an engineer inspecting a cosmic motherboard. He sees portals of light where energies transfer between worlds. He notes gates of the sun where day and night exchange command. He records paths of the moon that dictate calendars and tides. This isn't theology, it's mechanics. Heaven, in his account, functions like an intelligent machine with living components. He's shown that creation was built through delegation. The Supreme didn't micromanage, it issued directives. Each heavenly rank had a task. Some shaped elements, some managed movement, others handled consciousness. The spirits of the elements act as regulators, one for water, one for fire, one for wind, one for earth. These aren't metaphors for nature. They're administrators, entities responsible for the stability of matter itself. That's why the ancients said every mountain, river, and star has an angel. They weren't being poetic. They were repeating Enoch's technical observation: nature is managed. Then comes the shocking part. Enoch witnesses the creation of beings before humanity. He calls them bodiless ones. Pure intellects made of fire and sound. They exist as functions of will. No gender, no flesh, no emotion. They execute command without deviation. But even in this perfection, hierarchy forms. Some ascend higher, closer to the source. Others descend, preferring autonomy. That division becomes the seed of rebellion later. But Enoch isn't told that here. He's just shown how these entities operate. They serve as channels of creation, relaying command through light. He also sees the moment Earth is activated. It's not created, it's switched on. A sphere of condensed energy crystallizes from water and flame, surrounded by air, balanced by unseen currents. That firmament isn't a ceiling, it's a stabilizing layer. It keeps the dense world from collapsing under spiritual weight. The oceans are not just water, they're energy fields, charged reservoirs of memory. The stars are not decorations, they're data points, nodes transmitting divine information. The universe is an information network. The creation of humanity, in Enoch's account, is even more disturbing. He's told that man was a later design or a synthesis. Dust from earth combined with fragments of divine fire. Consciousness installed through breath, like programming life into a vessel. Humanity wasn't the first form of intelligence, but it was the first hybrid, spirit coded into matter. That's why the human mind can dream of infinity while trapped in flesh. The body is Earth's code, the soul is heaven's program. Enoch is also shown that this hybridization came with risk. Because mixing divine energy with matter created instability. The human form became a contested space. Spirits could influence it. Forces could manipulate it. Free will was the firewall, but even that could be breached. That's why so much of Enoch's vision revolves around the regulation of spiritual flow. He sees watchers, literal supervisors, stationed at dimensional intersections, ensuring the laws of transformation aren't violated. When they later interfered with humanity, it was a breach of cosmic protocol. In this grand design, even light has hierarchy. Enoch describes 7 types of luminescence, each with purpose. The first governs stars, the second powers suns, the third energizes atmospheres, the fourth sustains biological life, the fifth regulates consciousness, the sixth manifests visions, and the seventh anchors divine awareness. Together they form the architecture of illumination. Every beam of light carries instruction. When it hits matter, it programs reality. That's why Enoch is ordered to record the paths of the luminaries. He's documenting the operating system of existence. He sees that the storehouses of thunder, vaults of snow, and chambers of fire, not as poetic imagery, but repositories of elemental energy. Lightning isn't random, it's a discharge of command. Rain isn't luck, it's release of stored potential. Even weather obeys divine scheduling. What Enoch calls the angels of the winds are control systems maintaining equilibrium between elements. Every storm is deliberate. Every calm is calculated. Then he's shown the throne world, the central core of creation. It's surrounded by concentric layers of radiant substance. The outer rings pulse with patterns that look alive. They spin with precision, gears of light interlocking perfectly. In the center, beyond description, is the source. From it emanates vibration, cascading through all levels like ripples in eternity. Enoch realizes this isn't a kingdom, it's a network. The divine isn't sitting, it's circulating. Power isn't static, it flows, controlled by frequency, intention, and law. And here's the most haunting revelation: Enoch sees that creation never stopped. It's continuous. Every moment, new worlds are forming, old ones fading. The process is eternal. Existence is an ever-running system of creation and dissolution. He's told that everything visible is only one layer of the total structure. Beyond it, countless dimensions hum in silence, unseen but functioning. Each one has inhabitants, rules, and purpose. Humanity perceives only one frequency. The rest operate just outside the visible range. At one point, Enoch is brought to what he calls the Chambers of Souls. He sees spirits waiting in storage, some luminous, some dim. Each one carries its own pattern, waiting for embodiment. They hover above a pool of living light, ready to descend into flesh. He's told that each soul has a design code, a purpose built into its light. When a body is born, a compatible soul is deployed. When it dies, the energy returns, recalibrated. The system is automated. No randomness, no luck. He also witnesses the balance of justice built into creation. Not as moral punishment, but as energy correction. When something deviates from harmony, the system counteracts. Darkness rises not to oppose light, but to balance it. The fallen are restrained not out of vengeance, but to maintain stability. The flood, the fire, the plagues, all mechanical responses to cosmic imbalance. Creation polices itself. Divine law isn't about morality, it's about balance. In the depths of his vision, Enoch encounters the fire that speaks. It's not a being, but an interface, the voice of the source manifesting as light and vibration. It tells him every motion, every sound, every spark returns to its origin. That's when Enoch understands the cycle. Creation is the outward flow, dissolution is the return. Everything oscillates between existence and absorption. The universe breathes. He's then led into the halls of measurement, spaces filled with rotating glyphs, spheres of calculation, entities shaped like equations. They chant in geometric patterns, maintaining cosmic order through sound. Every number vibrates. Every form resonates. Matter itself is sustained by this ongoing music of law. Enoch calls it the song of creation. It's not symbolic, it's literally what keeps the universe from collapsing. When judgment comes in the Book of Enoch, it's not symbolic, it's systemic. The universe reacts like a machine purging infection. The Watchers violated the operating law of creation, and the system moved to neutralize the corruption. What unfolds isn't some angry deity hurling wrath from the clouds, it's the protocol of reality executing divine quarantine. Every action they took, every secret they revealed, every hybrid they spawned, triggered a chain reaction that destabilized existence itself. Enoch is brought to witness that process. The scene opens with chaos. The earth shakes, the sky fractures, and oceans rise like they're alive. The hybrid offspring of angels and humans, creatures too powerful, too unstable, begin devouring everything. They turn on each other. They consume life itself. The Book of Enoch describes it as a world consumed by hunger. The Nephilim are no longer conquerors, they're glitches in the matrix of creation, eating until reality itself screams. The land bleeds. The waters rot. Humanity's cries merge with the thunder of destruction. And above it all, the Watchers watch, unable to stop what they started. When Enoch is summoned again, it's not by angels this time, it's by the voice of command. He's ordered to record the final decrees. He hears that the time for mercy has ended. The Watchers are sentenced. Their children will be destroyed. Their knowledge erased. Their names struck from the registry of light. The rebellion that began as curiosity ends as a cosmic catastrophe. He's shown the angels of punishment, entities that never appear in any comfortable version of Scripture. They aren't demons. They are enforcers of divine equilibrium. They descend like storms of light, faceless, mechanical, precise. Enoch describes how they bind the Watchers, not metaphorically but literally, chains of radiant energy locking them into the caverns of the earth. These aren't human chains, they're frequency restraints, holding beings of light in compression fields beneath mountains. The fallen scream, not in pain, but in distortion. Their voices break across layers of reality like feedback from dying stars. Azazel, the one who revealed forbidden weaponry and vanity, is singled out. His punishment is unique. He's buried in the wastelands, bound in eternal darkness, cut off from the energy of heaven. His consciousness is left awake. That's the ultimate torment, immortal awareness trapped in silence. The sands become his prison, and the desert becomes the scar of his fall. Enoch sees it unfold, watching how the power that once built civilizations now lies buried under the weight of divine correction. The flood doesn't start with rain, it starts with frequency collapse. The harmonics that sustain the earth begin to destabilize. The fountains of the deep aren't just water, they're dimensional ruptures. Energy bursts from beneath, splitting the crust, boiling the oceans. Then the heavens open, literally. The atmospheric gates, once sealed, are released. Water pours down like liquid judgment. It's total reset. Every hybrid, every trace of forbidden creation is wiped clean. The surface of Earth returns to chaos, just like in the beginning. Enoch describes watching from the threshold of heaven. He sees the arcs of water wrapping the planet, the sun and moon dimmed by divine interference. The Watchers scream from their prisons as their children die. The Nephilim thrash, choking in rising tides, their roars echoing through the abyss. And for a moment, silence returns. But it's not peace, it's sterilization. The system has rebooted. After the deluge, Enoch is taken to view what's left. He sees a world stripped bare. The bones of giants buried under mud. The mountains cracked. The rivers redirected. The air itself humming with new frequency. But the remnants of the fallen still linger, their spirits disembodied, wandering, furious. These are the first disembodied intelligences. The origin of what later generations call demons. The Book of Enoch says their spirits are restless because they were born of heaven and earth, they belong to neither. They crave embodiment but can't return to flesh. They feed on energy, emotion, life force. That's their curse. Enoch writes that the Creator forbids their annihilation. They are to wander until the end of the great cycle. That's why they haunt the world. Not as monsters with horns, but as awareness without form. Entities cut off from both realms. They whisper, they influence, but they can never touch creation again. The true prison isn't underground, it's existence itself. Then Enoch is shown the chambers of judgment where the sentences are logged. He sees massive tablets glowing with inscriptions of energy, records of law, history, and consequence. Every being has a file, a code, a destiny. He sees the names of the Watchers burned out, replaced by silence. The cosmic archive has purged them. They don't just fall, they're erased from the architecture. This is how the universe cleans itself, deletion, not destruction. In one of his most detailed visions, Enoch sees the 7 mountains of metals where the Watchers are entombed. Each mountain is a different alloy: iron, copper, silver, gold, lead, tin, and a 7th substance that glows with no name. Within each, the fallen are confined in stasis. They can't die. They can't move. They can only wait. Time passes differently there. 1 day equals 10,000 human years. Enoch is told that their chains will remain until the final reconfiguration of the system, when balance demands release or annihilation. He's also shown the angelic commanders assigned to maintain these prisons. They're not soft beings of light, they're described as armored, colossal, carrying instruments of containment. They inspect the caverns, ensuring the restraints hold. The sight terrifies Enoch. Not because of cruelty, but because of precision. Every aspect of creation, even punishment, follows law. Nothing is arbitrary. The rebellion didn't just break rules, it broke function. And this is the repair. Then Enoch witnesses the rewriting of the Earth's grid. The axis shifts. The magnetic currents realign. The orbits of the luminaries are recalculated. The sun's path is adjusted to stabilize time again. He's told this is why the new world will no longer have the same lifespan as before. The flood didn't only cleanse, it altered the system's settings. Lifespans shorten, energies densify, access to higher realms closes. The gate between dimensions seals. What's left of the pre-flood knowledge disappears. The arts of the Watchers, astronomy, metallurgy, sorcery, fade from memory. What survives becomes distorted legend. Humanity begins again, ignorant but stable. The age of direct communication between heaven and earth ends. Enoch records all of this, not as prophecy, but as engineering documentation. The reboot of creation logged through human eyes. He's then shown one final vision, the field of bones. The remains of the Nephilim, buried deep in the strata of the earth. Their skeletons emit faint luminescence, reminders of their half-divine nature. The angels of punishment stand guard over the site, ensuring no spirit attempts resurrection. Enoch is told their re-emergence would destabilize the world again. So they remain, monuments of corruption sealed beneath time. But there's one anomaly. Enoch sees fragments of their essence rising as mist, reabsorbed into the atmosphere. Those fragments will later influence human dreams, myths, and religions. Every culture that speaks of gods mating with mortals, of giants, of flood, of forbidden wisdom, it all traces back to these echoes. The flood erased their bodies, but not their imprint. And in the middle of that post-flood silence, Enoch hears the voices of the surviving angels speaking to the Creator. They ask, will the earth rise again? The answer is simple, the law stands. The balance restores. Creation doesn't stop, it resets. The Watchers remain locked, their children's souls roam, humanity rebuilds. The system continues. After the flood, the Book of Enoch doesn't fade, it vanishes deliberately. What you're looking at here isn't the disappearance of a manuscript. It's a purge. A controlled deletion of knowledge that was never supposed to survive the reset. The power structure that emerged after the catastrophe needed control, order, hierarchy, obedience. And the Book of Enoch was the one document that broke all three. It didn't fit into the sanitized version of creation that priests and scribes were building. It made heaven look mechanical, angels look fallible, and humanity look aware. That's why it had to be buried. You don't burn fairy tales. You erase what threatens the architecture of belief. The first major erasure begins in the early religious councils. The Enochian writings are labeled too dangerous, too unclear, too mystical. Translation, too independent. It taught that man could access divine knowledge directly, that no priest or temple was required. It described heavenly operations in technical terms, not symbolic ones. It spoke of law, code, and energy, not worship. That makes it heresy. The early canonizers saw the risk if humanity believed that angels could fall, that humans could rise, and that divine law was mechanical rather than moral. The entire concept of religious control collapses. So, they cut it. Officially excluded. Silenced. The same pattern every age repeats, erase the text, preserve the system. But the Enochic current didn't die, it went underground. It slipped through Ethiopia, hidden in GEZ manuscripts. It reappeared in the hands of Jewish mystics who saw in it something deeper than religion, a manual for decoding heaven. Centuries later, it resurfaces in fragments among the Dead Sea Scrolls. That discovery blew holes in the timeline. It proved that Enoch was older than much of the accepted canon, not a late invention but a foundational cosmology. Those caves held pieces of the original system, testimonies of watchers, maps of the heavens, prophecies encoded in astronomical data. Scholars tried to categorize it, to domesticate it, but it refused to fit. The Book of Enoch was the black box of prehistory, still humming after the crash. What makes it so volatile is its relationship to other sacred texts. The Epistle of Jude in the New Testament directly quotes it. That means it was still considered scripture during early Christian development. Yet later, it vanishes, no debate, no compromise. It's deleted from the Western canon, preserved only in the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. Think about that. One of the earliest Christian communities keeps it sacred while Rome buries it. You can trace the politics in the paper trail. The structure of Enoch's work is unlike anything else. It's not a moral treatise, not a hymn, not a prophecy. It's a report. It contains sections detailing cosmic law enforcement, time measurement systems, dream archives, and descriptions of interdimensional entities. It reads like classified data. And that's the problem. Religion needs mystery to survive. Enoch explains too much. It names the machinery. It exposes the protocols. It tells you who runs what, when, and how. It gives blueprints, not metaphors. The early theologians understood the danger immediately. If people believed in a structured cosmos where divine power could be studied, mapped, or even understood, they'd stop worshipping, they'd start investigating. Enoch turns faith into science. It turns revelation into access. It turns gods into systems. That's not faith, that's rebellion. As it spread underground, the Enochian texts became the backbone of esoteric traditions. Gnostics saw it as proof that the visible creator, the one worshipped as the supreme god, wasn't the ultimate source. The Enochic version of creation supported their cosmology of hidden rulers, layers of deception, and false divinity. They pointed to the Watchers and said, "Here's your proof that heaven is compromised. Here's your evidence that the light you worship isn't pure." That connection terrified Orthodox leaders. They understood the implication. If Enoch was right, the entire salvation structure built on obedience was theater. By the time Rome consolidated its canon, every copy of Enoch that wasn't buried or carried by mystics disappeared. Yet traces of it echo through later mystical literature. Kabbalists reference it indirectly. Hermetic texts mirror its cosmology. Even Islamic esotericism hints at its lineage through the transformation of Enoch into Idris, the prophet who ascended without death and became the keeper of celestial knowledge. The idea survives even when the name is removed. This is where the narrative gets sharper. The so-called Book of Giants, discovered among the Dead Sea Scrolls, extends Enoch's material. It fills in missing data, names of the hybrids, their internal wars, their psychic communications, their collapse. It's the biological side of the story. It describes how these half-divine beings, part matter, part energy, began experiencing breakdowns, psychic and physical. They start consuming everything, not out of hunger, but as a malfunction. They're described as broadcasting their agony across realms. That detail changes everything. It implies that the destruction of the pre-flood world was as much a containment effort as a moral one. The entire ecosystem went insane. You'll also find that later apocryphal books, like Jubilees, restructure the Enoch story, sanitizing it for public use. They retain fragments, the Watchers, the Nephilim, the Flood, but strip the technical language and replace it with moral packaging. They turn cosmic regulation into divine wrath. They swap machinery for judgment. That's the censorship process in motion. Simplify the divine, humanize the cosmic, and keep the masses obedient. The fragments that survived in Ethiopia preserve a rawer tone. They describe Enoch's conversations with beings called luminaries, who regulate celestial order. These dialogues aren't prayers, they are transactions. He's shown how calendars are built from stellar alignments, how energy flows govern cycles of fertility and decay, how time itself can be measured through light angles. This isn't mythic prose, it's physics disguised as prophecy. That level of sophistication doesn't belong in the Bronze Age narrative of shepherds and kings. That's why it was rewritten as metaphor. There's another element that gets lost in mainstream religion, the Enochian idea of watchers who remain. After the rebellion, not all watchers fell. Some stayed loyal, some observed neutrally, and some hid among humanity as silent recorders. The text describes them as eyes of God in flesh, unseen observers whose only task is to witness and report. It suggests that the monitoring system of heaven still operates, always watching, never interfering, documenting humanity's evolution for reasons unexplained. That concept, stripped from the canon, survives only in esoteric traditions as the notion of secret keepers, unseen witnesses, the watchers above the watchers. When you realize how much of the world's mythology echoes Enoch, you start to see the erasure pattern. The Greek Titans, the Sumerian Apkallu, the Hindu Devas, all share the same template, divine beings interfering with humanity, punished by floods or fire. The stories are variations of one suppressed source. The Book of Enoch is the missing link between myth and scripture. It bridges religious cosmology with prehistoric memory. That's what makes it radioactive. Even the architecture of the heavens described in Enoch predates later systems like the Sephiro or Dante's Paradise. The structure of 10 heavens mirrors 10 spheres, 10 emanations, 10 dimensions, an ancient model of reality encoded long before physics gave it names. The disappearance of that model from mainstream religion wasn't ignorance, it was strategy. Keep humanity in moral binaries, good and evil, heaven and hell, and you keep them manageable. Introduce layered cosmology, and control dissolves. By the time European scholars rediscovered Enoch in the 18th century, the system had already replaced the original structure with dogma. When they read it, they didn't know what they were looking at. The symbolism, the numbers, the astronomical charts, all dismissed as primitive imagination. But behind that ancient phrasing lies data. Timetables, equations, cosmological constants. The ancients encoded their physics in myth because it was the only safe language they had left. And that's what makes the suppression of Enoch so deliberate. It wasn't theological, it was informational. The text held too much technology, too much knowledge of how the divine mechanism operates. The rulers of religion understood that whoever holds the map of creation holds power over creation. And Enoch was the only man who wrote that map. After the Book of Enoch was buried, its current never stopped moving. It resurfaced through mystics, hidden orders, and secret schools that refused to believe the universe was ruled by simple morality. They saw in Enoch not a myth, but a formula. A language that decoded reality. The priests buried it, but the magicians, philosophers, and heretics picked it up, rewrote it, and passed it along through centuries under new names. That's how the Enochian current survived, hidden inside what would later be called Gnosticism, Kabbalah, Hermeticism, and the occult sciences. In the ancient mystery schools of Alexandria, teachers whispered that Enoch had not died but transformed into Metatron, the voice of God, the living interface between man and the divine system. They called him the Lesser YHWH, the being who holds the record of all creation. Imagine that, a man elevated into the architecture itself, encoded into the throne network as part of the operating system. In the Enochian schema, he isn't just a prophet. He's the software engineer of heaven, the one who translates divine will into executable law. That idea shook the foundation of monotheism. It meant that divinity could evolve. The Jewish mystics of the Second Temple era expanded that idea into what became the Kabbalah. Their tree of life, with 10 Sephiro descending from the infinite, mirrors Enoch's 10 heavens. It's not coincidence, it's inheritance. Each sphere, each path, represents a level of consciousness, an echo of what Enoch saw when he traveled through the structure of creation. The Kabbalists simply adapted it into a map of the soul, a psychological architecture rather than a cosmic one. The same pattern, just refracted inward. Meanwhile, in the Gnostic circles, Enoch became the archetype of forbidden ascent. The Gnostics read his story as evidence that the material world was a trap, a lower domain ruled by counterfeit powers, the archons. They believed Enoch had pierced through their illusion and seen the source beyond them. To them, the Watchers were not simply fallen angels, they were jailers, administrators of the Matrix, controlling humanity through ignorance. The real God existed above them, invisible, silent, untouched. Enoch was the proof that escape was possible. That's why Gnostic texts speak of luminous beings ascending through layers of heavens, each guarded by an archon demanding a password. Those passwords? They trace back to the names and formulas encoded in Enoch's visions. He gave them the cosmic passcodes. The Hermetic philosophers took it further. They saw in Enoch the origin of Hermes Trismegistus, the master of divine knowledge, the one who wrote the Emerald Tablets. The message is the same, as above, so below. The heavens mirror the human mirrors the heavens. That symmetry is pure Enochian logic. It's the recognition that the structure he witnessed in the cosmos is the same structure encoded in the mind. What he saw externally, Hermeticists internalized. That's why the Hermetic texts call the universe a living organism, a machine of mind, not matter. In later centuries, alchemists, astrologers, and magicians rediscovered fragments of the Book of Enoch and rewired them into new systems. The The language of angels, the Enochian alphabet developed by John Dee and Edward Kelly in the 1500s, wasn't random. They claimed it came from direct communication with entities of the higher spheres, the same type of beings that taught Enoch himself. Dee believed he had reactivated the ancient communication network, the pre-flood interface between humanity and the Watchers. The Enochian keys he recorded are linguistic coordinates, vibrational codes that align human consciousness with the architecture of heaven. To him, this was science, not superstition. A way to access the control panels of creation. You can trace the same lineage through secret societies, the Rosicrucians, the Theosophists, even the early Freemasons. Each of them preserved pieces of Enoch's cosmology under different symbols. The Masonic legend of Enoch's vault, an underground chamber containing a golden triangle inscribed with the name of God, is a direct echo of the Enochian tablets. The story says that Enoch buried the knowledge beneath the earth before the flood to preserve it for a future age. Every initiate who seeks that lost word is reenacting his journey, descending into darkness to recover the light of forbidden knowledge. It's ritualized remembrance disguised as moral allegory. In Islamic mysticism, Enoch reappears as Idris, the prophet who ascended into heaven alive. The Quran describes him as a truthful one raised to a high station. The Sufi interpretation goes deeper. Idris is the archetype of the human intellect merging with divine intelligence. The transformation from Enoch to Idris to Metatron forms a triad, a complete evolution from man to messenger to mechanism. Every stage represents a deeper union with the source. The mystics read this as a map of spiritual physics, not theology. What makes this thread so dangerous across traditions is that it strips away external worship. The Enochian legacy teaches participation. It tells humanity the divine isn't an object of faith, it's a system you can access. That's the subversion. That's why it survived only in secret. Once you know the structure, the middlemen lose power. Priests, kings, institutions, they become irrelevant. The Book of Enoch handed humanity the interface to its own divinity. That's not heresy, it's autonomy. Even modern occultism draws from it. The concept of higher planes, vibrational ascension, light bodies, and celestial hierarchies, all of it descends from the Enochian model. When you hear about summoning angels, opening gateways, or activating DNA light codes, it's derivative language. The original framework already existed thousands of years earlier. Every esoteric system that claims to unveil the mechanics of heaven is just reinterpreting his data through a new cultural lens. The pattern never changes, knowledge is revealed, system tries to suppress it, fragments survive, and the cycle continues. The same current flows through Egypt's Thoth, Babylon's Nabu, Greece's Hermes, and Kabbalah's Metatron, all different names for the same archetype, the human who becomes the bridge between worlds. Enoch was the prototype of that bridge. His story predates religion and outlives it. In the Enochian worldview, evolution isn't biological, it's spiritual architecture expanding through knowledge. Each civilization that rediscovers his teaching gets closer to the operating code. That's why, every few centuries, the forbidden knowledge resurfaces. It isn't revelation, it's memory. The system keeps rebooting, and the code re-emerges under new names. You can even see its trace in art, in symbols carved into cathedrals, in the geometric blueprints of ancient temples. The numbers, the ratios, the alignments, they all follow the same structure Enoch described. 10 spheres, 4 winds, 7 heavens, 12 gates. The sacred geometry that built pyramids, ziggurats, and Gothic cathedrals isn't random beauty, it's mathematical theology. Architecture as encoded memory. The Book of Enoch isn't just a text, it's embedded in the blueprint of civilization itself. Across ages, secret orders preserved fragments under ritual. The Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn used Enochian calls to project consciousness into other planes. The Theosophists interpreted his ascent as the evolution of man into cosmic awareness. The modern chaos magician stripped away the religion and kept the system because at its core, Enoch's knowledge is neutral. It's data. It can heal or corrupt depending on who accesses it. That's the same paradox that destroyed the Watchers. What's fascinating is how every interpretation, from mystic to scientist, keeps returning to the same structure: layered reality, vibrational law, coded existence. Enoch saw it first. Everyone else is still trying to translate it. And maybe that's the unspoken truth behind the persistence of his name. He's not just a prophet in ancient text. He's the origin point of every human attempt to decode creation. That's the legacy the authorities couldn't erase. They could ban the book, burn the manuscripts, rewrite the theology, but they couldn't kill the current. It's built into consciousness itself. The Enochian idea that knowledge bridges heaven and earth infected everything. It's in mysticism, in science, in art, in architecture, in mathematics, in the human instinct to search for pattern and code. So when people talk about the mystery of Enoch, they're not just talking about a man who ascended. They're talking about the seed of rebellion that never died, the knowledge that consciousness itself can access the divine mainframe. That's why the story keeps coming back. Because every civilization eventually reaches the same question: what if the gods were not rulers, but engineers? What if creation is not worship, but design? That's the thread Enoch left behind, a map disguised as myth, a technology encoded in scripture, a secret that refuses to stay buried. It's the silent connection running beneath all religions, all mysteries, all sciences. The story that says, if man can see beyond the veil, he becomes part of the architecture itself. Thank you for watching this deep exploration of the Book of Enoch's hidden current and the legacy that shaped every ancient mystery we know.